I think we talked about pretty much everything else.
Here, one question from Nintendo. From
Sure.
@HiredGeekMN says, with all the attention on the Switch, how does Microsoft and Sony get the focus back on them?
Scorpio.
Right. We can lead right into our Scorpio talk. I mean, that's...
And also, good games like Mass Effect.
Right.
And also, it doesn't matter because people buy PlayStation 4s no matter what.
Right. They've sold a lot already. They're good to go at this point.
They're going to keep on selling those.
Right. If nobody bought anymore, they would still be good to go. But that's not going to happen.
Scorpio.
Yeah. So Scorpio, there was two little bits of Scorpio news. One really just the one important one is that Digital Foundry got a hold of the spec sheet, the white sheet on the Scorpio. And overall, they seem pretty impressed with it. But they did say that they're going to wind up using like this checkerboarding and not really being native 4K for some games. So it's really may not be the true native 4K machine that Microsoft has been touting, but they did seem pretty impressed overall by what had leaked out. When is this coming out? Is this going to be like,
I don't know,
announced at E3?
This like the Switch doesn't really exist yet,
or revealed at E3 rather, and then out for the holiday season. Is that what we're thinking? Does that make sense?
Sure, why not?
I guess the other bit of Scorpio news was that the developer of Oni and the Blind Forest, is that a game name?
Ori.
I said Oni.
Yeah.
Oni is a Bungie game, isn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
And it means devil in Japanese.
I thought it meant your mom.
He said that basically he was writing on GAF, and he said that he really thought that now that we're all using PC architecture, that going forward all console games are going to be backwards compatible, and that the Scorpio is really Microsoft's next gen Xbox. But, because, power wise it is, but because it's fully backwards compatible, it's not, like 100% backwards compatible. I don't know. It's sort of like a tricky thing. Like, how do you market that as Microsoft? How do you position this? If it really is powerful enough to be a next gen system, how do you sell this to the customer now? And you're not calling it the next gen. You can't, because
no, they're not. They're apparently not going to release any games for it that are only playable on it.
Right?
No, they definitely will.
They said they're not.
They definitely.
They've said it many times. You're not allowed to make.
Is that sort of like? Do they just kind of like phase it in? Like you're going to ease you into the next generation?
That could be.
There's going to be an easing process here, I'm sure, because it just doesn't make sense to have this thing be so much more powerful than the Xbox One,
right?
And not take advantage of it. Because
what you can do is, now you're just going again on the old cycle. You got you can have Scorpio Slim or whatever, who knows? The question is what do they call this thing? Are they going to call it, is it going to be like Xbox One something? Is it going to be a whole new something else? I mean, the marketing is pretty tricky, I feel. And I don't know that I'm willing to put in the time to think about what they should be doing, but I don't know. Don't you agree that this is it's like a slippery slope here? You're going to put this thing out. They're probably going to charge. How much are they going to charge for it? They're going to charge. Well, we talked about this before.
$400.
Yeah, it's $400.
That's the price.
You think it's like $600 cheap?
Well, I guess if it's coming out by Christmas, it's probably not going to be $600. I don't know. We got to see the Xbox.
I think right now we're still in the way too much speculation phase, and until we see something, we're just spitting in the wind, as they say.
I will say one last thing that I did not expect to see: Xbox One S's and regular Xbox Ones so cheap as they are now. I mean, and they have been for the last few months now, I guess. I mean, crazy, super cheap. So I don't know. It would seem weird to put out a $600 console now when you're selling whatever the current hotness for not even $250. So, hey, we'll have to wait and see. But it is interesting. What else we got here? Anyone have any problems with their Xbox Elite controllers?
I don't have one.
Well, that's a problem. Ship?
Mine's fine still.
Okay. Because at Jack
I generally
Cato,
have never had any problems with the controllers.
Xbox controllers?
Any controllers.
Any
I've
controllers.
never had one really die on me.
The Y button sticks on my day one controller. Drives me bananas.
You've got very soft hands, Shipwreck.
I just take care of my stuff, I think.
Maybe.
And I'm lucky.
While we're talking about Microsoft, at Curbstomped asks, since Microsoft canceled Scalebound and Fable Legend, is Sea of Thieves up next? I think that this game looks pretty good and people seem excited about it. So, and it seems like
it may not be that expensive either.
Oh, to develop?
Yeah.
It's probably, they're funding that whole studio. So it's probably not that cheap. But I think it has a pretty good upside with, my in-game purchases, I think. You can imagine all the customization options that they could offer for like everybody's pirate ship and pirate character, and they could sell you a million different ways.
This thing needs to come out
things.
though, right?
Yeah.
Like it needs it.
This is going to be
That's
a big.
The only worry about it is that it was playable at E3, and I don't know. It looked like it was probably pretty close to being ready. I don't know.
There's
what
been
the
a
plan
closed
is.
beta. I know. I'm pretty sure there was a closed beta. And I think this will be probably a big focus for Microsoft at E3 this year. And it's probably a holiday season game, right?
Yeah. I think the difference between it and Scalebound and Fable Legends, first of all, anybody that played Fable Legends, they came away thinking this is not very good.
I played Fable Legends. It was not very good.
You didn't even have to play it to
right. You could look at it and go, this is not
what
we want.
No.
And Scalebound, there were just so, like, we never played it. It was in development. They showed it for a long time, but it was never playable at any of the events.
Right.
It doesn't really have a huge upside.
Right.
So
Right.
It's not, Sea of Thieves is not the same as those other two.
At some point they did the math and they realized they're not making their money back on Scalebound. Just shut it down. Sea of Thieves, I think, whether or not it's going to be like a great game or not, you could see people sinking money into it after their initial $60 purchase, right? Just pirates.
I don't know.
Is it you think it might be like a free-to-play game?
Does it have Capture the Flag?
They have a lot of flags, I think, in that game.
It's definitely a high concept game, but maybe that's why they're going to release it. Who knows?
I feel like it could make money. It can get people hooked on the type of game people get hooked into it, and with their little pirate posses. You probably don't call them pirate posses. What do you call like a pirate? What group of pirates? What would you call that?
Cocks.
Group of cocks?
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of cocks, rather?
All right. I believe it's a cock of pirates.
A cock of pirates.
Fable, man, that makes me sad. Just looking at Fable and remembering how good Fable 2 was.
How good Fable 2 was, yeah. And how bad Fable 3 was, by comparison.
Right. I remember that.
Boy, did they shit the bed on that franchise.
It was... It's such a huge potential franchise. And
it should be as big as any franchise they...
Should be as big as Skyrim.
Yeah, it should be.
A single platform
It legitimately
Skyrim.
should be. Yeah. Fable 1 was very good. It was flawed, but it was a very good game. It was... If the overpromises weren't made, everyone's feelings on Fable would be much different. And Fable 2 was great. Fable 3 was rushed and, it was obvious. And then they just never made another one. It's very strange. That whole situation was weird.
Why don't they make another one? Maybe they'll make another one. Maybe they're making one right now.
Who?
Somebody. Who? Secret.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You don't know.
Yeah.
You're right, though. It should be a big success for them. Continued success. There's no reason for that franchise to go under. I mean, Maybe, I mean, they sold copies. It put asses in seats, that game. Come on.
Mm-hmm.